My ex-husband took my daughter to fancy restaurants with his new family, but made her sit there watching them eat. I found out from my 9-year-old daughter Mia that she hadn't eaten dinner in 3 weeks at her father's house. Not because there wasn't food, because Jerome and his new wife Diane had been taking the family to restaurants every Friday and Saturday, but only ordering for themselves and Diane's son Kyle. Mia would sit there with an empty plate, watching them eat steaks and pasta while they told her she'd already eaten at home, even though she hadn't. They'd take pictures of the whole family at the table for Diane's Instagram, then give Mia water and breadsticks while they ate $60 entrees. My daughter finally broke down crying after Jerome dropped her off last Sunday. She was so hungry that she threw up from eating too fast. They'd been doing this for over a month. Every weekend, different restaurants, always the same routine. Get dressed up, drive to somewhere nice, take family photos, then tell Mia the kids' menu was too expensive and she could eat when they got home. Except when they got home, Diane would say the kitchen was already clean, and Mia could have cereal in her room. Jerome would be too busy watching TV with Kyle to notice his daughter going to bed hungry. I'd wondered why she was losing weight, but Jerome said she was going through a growth spurt. After Mia told me everything, I called Jerome immediately. He said I was being dramatic. They were having financial troubles and couldn't afford 4 meals at restaurants, but Kyle needed to eat because he had soccer practice. Mia was fine with just appetizers. Besides, she was getting chubby anyway and could stand to skip a few meals. He actually said that about his 9-year-old daughter. Diane got on the phone and added that Mia was being ungrateful. They were including her in family outings, and she was complaining about free breadsticks. Most kids would be happy just to go somewhere nice. Maybe if I sent more child support, they could afford to feed her properly. The audacity made my hands shake. I paid Jerome $800 a month, even though we had a 50-50 custody, because I made more money. Money he apparently spent on restaurants where he couldn't feed his child. I told them this wasn't over and hung up. Then I called my brother Nick, who owned 3 restaurants in town, including the steakhouse where they'd taken photos last Friday. He was furious when I told him what was happening. We made a plan for the next weekend. Friday afternoon, Jerome texted that he was keeping Mia an extra night for a special family dinner. I knew exactly what that meant. Another photo opportunity where my daughter would sit hungry. I said that was fine. Nick made some calls to his restaurant contacts and found out they had reservations at Rosewood, the new Italian place downtown. He knew the owner. We were ready. I arrived at Rosewood an hour before their reservation with my friend Leslie, who happened to be a family court attorney. We got a table with a perfect view of the main dining room. Then we waited. They walked in at 7:30. Diane was wearing a dress that cost more than she claimed they couldn't afford for food. Kyle is in designer sneakers. Jerome is in his good watch. And Mia, in the same dress she'd worn 3 weeks ago, looked thin and tired. They sat at their table and immediately started the routine. Diane pulled out her phone for photos. Big smiles. Happy family. Mia pressed between Kyle and Jerome like a prop. Then the menus came. I watched Jerome tell the server they'd need a few minutes. I saw him lean over to Mia and whisper something. Her face fell. She folded her hands in her lap and stared at the table while everyone else ordered. The server looked confused when Mia said she wasn't hungry. That's when I stood up and walked over with Leslie. Jerome's face went white when he saw us. Diane dropped her phone. I sat down right next to Mia and said loud enough for the tables around us to hear that, of course, my daughter was hungry since she hadn't been fed at a restaurant in over a month, despite coming to them twice a week. I turned to the server and ordered Mia the chicken Alfredo she'd been wanting to try. Then I ordered appetizers for the table, the most expensive ones. I told the server to put everything on my tab, including whatever Jerome's family had already ordered. Then I turned to Jerome and explained that Leslie had already filed emergency paperwork about neglect and starvation. The photos from Diane's Instagram showing Mia at restaurants with no food while everyone else ate would be Exhibit A through Z. His brother, who was a pediatrician, had already agreed to testify about Mia's weight loss. Nick walked over then and told Jerome he and his family were banned from all 3 of his restaurants for child neglect. The owner of Rosewood said the same thing. Word would spread to every decent restaurant in town by morning. Diane started crying about her reputation. Kyle asked if this meant they couldn't eat out anymore. Jerome just sat there staring at his water glass. I took Mia to our table where she ate every bite of her pasta, while her father's family sat in silence at theirs. We haven't heard from them since.